It's nice to be wanted.
Yes, yes.
Coming from the man that probably only has grandchildren.
I've got 9 grandchildren and I love all of them. Unfortunately, I don't get to see them often enough now. And they all live within 10 or 15 miles.
That's pretty amazing. That's great.
Yeah, both of my kids defected to Massachusetts, so I don't see my granddaughter very often.
Our three kids, their Grammy is she's also here in Northwood, Grammy and Granddad. So they spend a lot of time, which is, I think, just such a gift, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Excuse me.
Well, if you get bored, Ginger, you can come over here. I got a 3-year-old and an infant in the house most of the week.
Oh, so if I start having withdrawal from not seeing little ones, I can come visit you?
Just don't bring your husband.
Wouldn't
Paul,
do
are
it.
you in a garage? It looks like you're in a garage.
In my cellar.
Your cellar, okay.
I had to set a place up away from the little ones running around.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Okay, it appears that we are all here. So, that being said, I'm going to call the Northwood Budget Committee work session to complete the town today, December 12th at 9:05 a.m. with a roll call. Betsy?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Grace?
Here,
Dan?
Here.
Mike Moore?
Present.
Steve?
Present.
Betty?
Present.
Paul?
Yeah.
Ted?
Here.
Pam?
Present.
Brian?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Mike Jobin?
Here.
And I am here as chair. Excused today are Brad Hall and Eric Buckland. So my usual opening statement. As chair of the Northwood Budget Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the Budget Committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through details located on our website and posted outside the town hall. If for any reason you cannot join or listen to this meeting, please call 942-5586 extension 2005. And I have to close my office door because my little four-legged friends want to visit me. Hang on. Sorry about that, thought I'd already done it. Okay, so we are finalizing the town's warrant. We need to vote on the 2021 operating budget. I received confirmation from Walter and John for the correct number, so I'll read it into the warrant article. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $3,962,060. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $3,703,066, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, sections 10 and 14, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote is required. Estimated tax impact, $3.54. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. I await your pleasure.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend the article as read.
Second,
And who was the second?
Grace.
Thank you, Grace. Do we have any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will do a roll call. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom, where'd Tom go?
Muted.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom. Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and yes. Count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14-0. Okay, that concludes the town portion of our meeting today. We need to adjourn the town portion of the meeting.
Ginger,
Yes,
before you adjourn, I just want to thank the Budget Committee for all their work on the town budget. I appreciate the efforts of the volunteers who spend so much time working on this, and I just wanted to say thank you.
on behalf of, I'm sure most members, if not all, thank you, John. You've put a lot of time in on this. So. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I don't imagine anybody wants to discuss it, so we'll go with a roll call. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve Robinson,
Yes.
Betty Smith,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and yes, we have adjourned the town portion of our work. Making my notes here. Hang on. Okay. We will open the school board's budget work session at 9:12 with a roll call. Betsy? Tom?
Here.
Grace?
Here.
Dan?
Here.
Mike Moore?
Present.
Steve?
Present.
Betty?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Ted?
Here.
Pam?
Yes, here.
Brian?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Mike Jobin?
Here.
And I am here as well. So, okay, so we are now in the school's work session. I'm going to turn this over to Brian. And you can,
Brian,
yes, Tom?
can I ask you please to introduce the non-budget committee members who've been kind enough to join us, some of whom I recognize and some of whom are new to me.
Yep, Tom, absolutely. So there's school board member Shane Wells is here. I don't see any other school board members, but there are people that are on both screens. So I don't think any other school board members have shown up. We also have our interim superintendent, Dr. Monica Henson.
Morning.
The interim business administrator, Glenn Waring. The student services director, Nate Byrne.
Morning.
And the Northwood School principal, Jocelyn Young.
Good morning.
And I don't think there's anybody else on the other screen. I'm just checking, but so that's here from SAU 44 and from Northwood School. If it's okay with you all, I'd like to screen share a presentation to go over some of the factors that drove our budget this year. Would that be okay with the committee?
That's fine, Brian. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me pull this right up.
Anything that helps us, go for it.
Okay. Can you all see this screen at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And obviously, when you're in screen sharing, if you have a question, I can't see you, or I don't believe Ginger could see you either. So I think if you would like me to stop for any reason, please just unmute and interrupt me. I won't be offended by that at all. First of all, there were a few different versions of the budget because we were working on it through December 10th to finalize things because we were working at the SAU level as well. So I just want to make sure some of the numbers that, depending on which copy of the budget you're looking at, I wanted to make sure we all have the correct numbers here. So the number on the left here, the first one says 22. That refers to the furthest left-hand column on our budget printout, not the cost center or anything like that, but just the actual line of the budget. So line 22 is the co-brown tuition, and the budget, the approved number that the school board has approved anyways is for $3,363,569. And then I can just read through these pretty quickly. I want to give people obviously enough time to check them. So if I do go too fast and you want me to hold up, please let me know. On line 24, the language arts reading number, that's $4,837. Line 41, the new fixture and furniture and fixtures, excuse me, that's $362.09. Line 43, the replacement furniture and fixtures, that's $1,226.34. And then we jump down kind of a bit to line 107. And we have a lot of these, and I'll explain that in a future slide here. A lot of the retirement, the certified retirement especially changed a bit this year. So on line 107, that one is for $3,573.40. Line 117, also retirement certified, that's $3,825.64. Line 124, is $462.44. And then jumping down again to line 175, retirement certified there is $4,151.45. And I'll obviously just ask any of the administrators or Mr. Wells, if I typed in a number wrong, please jump in and correct me. Jumping ahead again to line 225, the technology replacement of equipment. That line's $85. Line 257, the SAU district assessment. That, again, that one changed on December 10th, so that's probably different for everyone. That was $548,223.08. Jumping again to 302, repairs and maintenance for the building, $26,060. Down to 312, replacement of equipment, $1,800. And to 316, grounds and maintenance retirement, $916.50. Would anyone at this point like me to keep this screen up for you to copy down, or is it okay if I move ahead?
Just one more second.
I
Absolutely.
need a couple seconds.
Sure.
Brian, is there any way you could email us a copy of this?
Yeah, I think what would probably, I can, I think what would work too is just to email the most recent budget from December 10th.
Personally, I'd like to see these summaries.
Okay, I can share that with people, sure.
I'm all set now.
Brian, while we're waiting, can you just give us the new bottom line total?
Yeah, that's on the next slide right here.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Brian, I will email the slides to Ginger and let her distribute them to the committee. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. 'Cause
Absolutely fine.
I'll forward them to Linda and then,
Right.
because Linda's got everybody's email address real handy and I don't, so.
Okay.
Okay, so I did move ahead to the next slide. Does anybody need me to go back for those lines?
Brian, this is
Yes.
Tom.
Sure.
The previous slide at the top has 3 different dates, the 2nd, the 4th, and the 10th. And what
Yes.
you're telling us is on what is obviously the 10th is the most recent.
That's correct.
And
Here's what happened, Tom. We had a school board meeting on December 3rd where we made some adjustments. So budget committee members, I believe, originally got a document from December 4th, which was pretty current. Most of these numbers were accurate other than the SAU and the bottom line at that point, I believe. I know some committee members were received another copy, I think, with larger font and different highlighting, and that, I think on my copy anyways, said that it was from the 2nd. So that was before we made some changes on December 3rd, which gets confusing. And then we again had another meeting to finalize numbers and vote on the budget on December 10th. So the copy that I'm working from is the one that was voted on by the school board on December 10th. It has a few changes from December 4th. It has a few more changes from December 2nd.
And all
Okay.
budget committee members should be looking at the enlarged copy, which is the 13 by
12-2.
17 or whatever the heck it is, the real big one we can read, that at the top says December 2nd. Those were all hand delivered to you. Because the first version that we got was pretty tight and I'm old and I couldn't read it, so I asked for them to be made larger.
Thank you to all of you.
so going forward, Brian, it would be helpful to us who have more paper than we know what to do with to always reference both, as Ginger just did, the recommendation that we follow along on the O2 version, 12/02/20 version, large 11 by 17 version of the budget, even though there have been changes that appear on the 04 version, which is too small and too dark to read. And you've got the final version, which is the 10 version.
Correct.
And in the previous slide, you referenced numbers beginning with Co-Brown 22, which I can on my O2 sheet see corresponds to the line on the first page, 1 of 10, where that's tuition Co-Brown. So to the extent that we want to try and bring things in line based on these adjustments, some of which are substantive and others of which are like $225, $85 is not real substantive. But that's how we're going to do this. So thank you for letting me literally get on the same page. And I'm ready to go on from there.
All right,
Madam
Tom,
Chair.
I'm always excited when you.
Yes, somebody else is,
Sorry.
Ginger, it's Linda.
hi, Linda,
If I could comment, please.
please.
I just want to bring a point of order to your attention
Okay,
that in your Budget Committee procedures, the first item on the list says, all information is to be distributed to Budget Committee members via U.S. mail. The Budget Committee will not hold a meeting if advance information is not received within 1 week of the date of the meeting. I would suggest that if you are not going to follow your procedures, that the committee vote to set aside that procedure so it's on the record for future reference. And that the committee vote to set that aside if that is the plan to go forward today.
good point, Linda. That's why I count on you. Okay, folks, as I know you are all aware, we're real short on time, thanks to SB2. I don't think anybody wants to postpone this a week. Please speak up if I'm incorrect with that. I would suggest, as Linda mentioned, a motion to set aside our agreed upon procedure for this day only as an exception, so that we can review the materials, which basically we received a week in advance. These are adjustments to those figures, which we've encountered in the past. I'm talking through this in my head.
I'm not sure all people received them a week in advance and they were not sent through the mail.
This is true. The original set was hand delivered 10 or 11 days ago. And
Ginger,
yes, who's speaking? Betty?
Betty. Cut to the chase. So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay, so Betty and Ted. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, it would seem to me that we will need to revisit that procedure in light of the fact that so much so much more information is now being delivered to people electronically. Not that I ever want to move necessarily away from paper copies hand delivered to my office to the ever dutiful Linda Smith, but it's one of those things where it seems a little anachronistic that we're expecting the USPS to deliver our paper copies to us in this era of electronic communication. And I support this motion going forward so that we don't have to adjourn.
Good point, Tom, and we can take that up at a future meeting. I'll make a note so that, to be sure that we address that. Any further comments or discussion? Okay, seeing none. One of the banes of electronic meetings is roll calls on everything. Betsy? Betsy?
Yes.
Oh, couldn't hear you. Thanks.
Speak up.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob? And Bob go. Bob, you want to unmute? Yes? No? Unmute. Okay.
There you go. Yes.
Okay. I could read the lips, but I couldn't hear the voice. Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you, Linda, for keeping me on track.
Okay, may I resume with the screen
Yes.
sharing presentation? And thank you, everyone. I appreciate working through this today. I'm sure we'll all be glad to wrap this up. So these are, as just discussed, these are the numbers that were in the school board approved budget that was approved on December 10th. It's very similar to the printed budget from December 4th. So the total proposed operational budget is for $12,052,674. That's a little over a $500,000 increase from the 2020-2021 operating budget. It's a 4.3% increase. The default budget is for $12,176,648. That's a $625,000 plus increase, or 5.4%. The difference between the two is the proposed operating budget is $123,974 lower than the default budget. I'm sure that most of the people here understand the process here, but the default budget is more of a statutory requirement. There's really only 4 or so legal reasons for items being placed into the default budget, and that's really developed you know, to make sure that we honor contractual obligations, we reduce one-time expenditures and those things. The proposed operating budget was developed by the school board and the administration, and then we're presenting it to the budget committee for your adjustments or approval. From here, it will go to the deliberative session and then to the final, to the voters in March. And I'll just mention again that this budget was recommended by the school board 4-0.
Brian,
I have a question?
Yes, Grace.
Could you go back 2 slides to the numbers?
Sure.
The proposed operating budget. Can you tell me what line that is?
That is the absolute bottom line.
That's 370?
Yeah, let me look at mine here. That's just absolutely at the bottom of the
Okay.
document. So,
And that's a 4.3%? Okay.
yep. It's recorded on mine. It's line 367. the net total operational cost.
Yeah, mine's, okay. And where does the default budget show up? I don't see it.
We've not yet received copies of the
Thank you.
default budget.
Okay, I'll stop looking for it. Thanks.
Yep, stop looking for it.
I'm all set.
Brian, can you go to the next page?
Sure.
The second to last bullet on the left, if you're wondering what I'm talking about.
Sure. That's a by law at the deliberative session, which we're holding on schedule for February 4th or 6th, that Thursday in February. I'd have to double check, but
Fourth.
there can be amendments from the floor, but they're legally capped at 10% in either direction of what the budget committee brings to the floor.
Okay, so you weren't saying, that's just legal boilerplate, basically.
Correct. So at some point, if we have a $12 million budget, someone could propose a change up to 10% of that total figure in either direction, or total changes adding up to that. And then at that point, the meeting has to stop if everyone agrees at that point. So.
And are you going to talk about that 528,000 for the SAU at some point, or?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. So if I can go ahead, the areas that we saw a lot of cost increases, obviously a $500,000 increase is rather large, but they came mostly from these areas. The SAU apportionment, I'll talk about all of these in a little bit more detail in the next slides. Our transportation cost, our special education cost, the New Hampshire Retirement Services contributions, our contractual salaries, and our high school tuition. And although the budget is up just over 500,000, the school board and the administration has worked in the areas that we can, and I'll talk about those as well, to bring down, and we've made approximately $500,000 in cuts. So we went from a baseline budget of about $1 million increase to about a $500,000 increase. So the SAU, we're currently sharing with two other towns, as you know, Nottingham and Stratford. Last March, Stratford residents voted to withdraw from SAU 44. So as a result, we'll become a 2-district SAU, and our apportionment went from about 29% to about 45%. In that change. And then there's a bit of a formula based on our total evaluation in the town and our student population and some other things to arrive at that number. But right now we're just about 45%. The total SAU budget decreased as the SAU got smaller, but not enough to offset that much. So our total increase, you'll see it on line 257 in the budget, of $177,419.
So are you looking at all to maybe move out of that building since there's only two groups there now instead of the 3? Or I'm sure there's plenty of real estate available in the town right now.
We have discussed ways to lower the rent. One of the options that I explored was to consider moving the SAU to the center school building. That, as we explored it, that seemed to be not viable. The rent at the SAU currently is just over $50,000, and I believe you have a copy of the SAU budget as well. And currently, our interim superintendent is negotiating a lower cost for the SAU because we will not need as much space next year. But that hasn't been finalized yet, so we're budgeting for the current rental fee, hoping that we can have a little bit less that from a lower actual cost next year.
Okay, Brian.
Brian, who's coughing? Somebody's coughing. Sorry,
Is everybody okay?
Sorry.
hopefully it's not a dry cough. Brian, I'm looking at line 257, which is the SAU money. It shows a figure of proposed of $534,772.42. And then it has a difference. Betty, you need to mute yourself. You're coughing in my ear. So that your new increase is $177,419. Does that replace the figure that's in my December 2nd sheet? Which is
Yes, it does. And it would be replaced if you're looking at December 2nd. That number was changed at our December 10th meeting. We had a joint board meeting. It increased by, I believe, $30,000. So then the
proposed number has increased.
Correct.
The proposed number is increased. Yeah.
All right.
So the total number, I'll double check here. The total number for the SAU cost should be $548,223.08. And the change here that was on the screen just a minute ago of $177,419.19.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead and continue, Brian.
Okay, thank you very much. Pull this back up. Our transportation costs have gone up. There's to our base contract, there's a 3% increase, and you'll see that on lines 331, 332, and that total that contract increase totals $10,961. And then our special education transportation at the high school saw a 65% increase, or $51,500. That's line 335.
Is there a reason why that went up so much?
Yeah, the transportation contract is, as it's being renewed, the company asked for a 3% increase. We've asked our superintendent to see what else is available, but we're budgeting for what we know that cost is at this point. If it's possible that we can find competition that is lower, we could make a decision to do that. But at this point, that's what we have to budget for, because we know that we definitely need transportation. In terms of the high school special education transportation, if it's okay, if I could allow Mr. Nate Byrne to speak about that. He has more detail about that than I could really have. Would that be okay? And Mr. Byrne, do you mind talking about the high school special education transportation?
I don't. I don't want to put anything on the budget committee, but I do believe in the past they've had to make a motion to allow non-residents to speak about their expertise.
That's only at our deliberative or town meetings,
Okay.
whatever. For the budget committee, we're not quite that formal. So
Okay, just want to
whenever
make
the rep
sure.
needs to call on someone, that's good.
Okay, just want to make sure. So I can speak to the increase for your special education high school transportation. What has occurred is you have students who are placed out of district, and some of the placements have changed, and not necessarily the placement of the student, but the location of the school itself, which has created a much larger or longer transportation route. And because of COVID, there's been a decrease of ability to ride share. So where you used to split the cost for your transportation with other districts, you at this point are not able to. We're hoping that that comes back, but what I don't want to do is give you a budget that says you're going to be able to ride share when we don't have one at the time. That would be budgeting on a best case scenario, and that's not something we should do with special ed. It will leave you very vulnerable. And it's something that we have to guarantee the student due to FAPE, the transportation to their school. So at this point, your transportation costs for some of your out-of-district placements have increased to such an amount of $450 a day for transport. So I just want to make sure you're aware that if we are able to ride share, we will bring that number down. But at this point, that is the safe estimate of what it's going to take to get your out-of-district students to their locations.
Thank you, Nate. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I was just concerned that, that we weren't putting numbers in the budget for COVID when hopefully by the time these kids go back to school in the next budget, that, this may be more under control anyway.
Yeah, if I thought it was strictly related to COVID, I would have budgeted even more friendly on that. But it's not strictly related to COVID, as you know. Ride shares are not always guaranteed anyway, so I had to look at it as though we don't have a ride share.
Thank you, Nate. Tom, did I see your hand up?
Brian, could I impose upon you to go back to these transportation figures to make sure that I have what is now on the final budget?
Okay, I'm going to
You're
interrupt
giving
for
me-
1 second, Tom. I believe that Brian will be able to give us those individual lines that changed again as we go through section by section.
All right,
Unless everybody wants to cut to the chase and just vote the bottom line.
I don't want to vote the bottom line, but I want to know, since the numbers I'm looking at from the second are not the numbers he's looking at for the 10th.
Correct. And as we go through section by section, the regular ed section, the special ed section, and all of the others, Brian would be able to remind us of those lines that changed and what the correct number is, as well as the correct total for that section.
All right, I'll just highlight places where I am noting that there's a difference between what it said on the second and what it says now on the 10th.
And I have them highlighted as well. So between us, we'll make sure we get the correct figure written in on us. Brian, you want to go ahead?
Absolutely. So that's where we are with transportation. On our special education, again, I might ask Mr. Byrne to speak about this, but we've restructured one of the positions, speech pathologist. In our current budget, we share that position with the SAU, and we are absorbing that position into the Northwood School operating cost. And overall, you see in line 54, there's an increase. Overall, there's a decrease because of only by a few $100s, I believe, but that's a position that we essentially use full-time anyways. And as the SAU gets smaller, it kind of makes sense to structure it in this way. But if you would like, I can ask Mr. Byrne to speak more about that.
Is anyone looking for additional information at this time on that line? I can't see everybody, but I'm not hearing anything. So I think
Okay.
we're good, Brian.
Great. One of the things that is hurting all of the New Hampshire schools this year is the New Hampshire retirement services. There was an increase in our mandated contribution from 17.8% to 21.02%. And between all the lines in our school, I have them listed here on the screen, that's over $111,000. And that's for certified staff. Also, there was an increase for non-certified staff, and that totaled another $19,000 plus. And this was, again, driven by the valuation by the New Hampshire Retirement Services. That's just a number that's given to us that we don't have any control over at all, unfortunately. Last year,
Brian, may I add?
Sure.
I just wanted to add a little bit on the note on retirement. I have been talking with the executive director of the New Hampshire retirement system, and he is going to attend the Nottingham School Board meeting on Wednesday night. And the Nottingham School Board has invited the other two school boards to attend, and I'll be glad to forward the Zoom information to Ginger to go out to the committee if any of you all would attend that. It will be at the beginning of the school board meeting, and the executive director and one of the valuation specialists is going to be there. They'll do a very short PowerPoint. I told them to please make it for lay people, not for actuaries.
Right.
And they will take questions on the changes to the retirement system. So if you're interested in learning more about why the increase, that would be a great opportunity. It will also be recorded, and I could provide the Zoom recording to anybody who'd like to view it if you can't attend Wednesday night.
Monica, what time does the meeting start?
It's at 6:30.
Thank you. I'll be sure when I get that Zoom information, I'll be sure everybody gets it via email, and those who choose to attend may do so. Thank you, Monica.
Thanks.
Tom?
I just want to, I think, state that it is my understanding that some years ago, for those of you who have more recently moved into the state or the town, that the state paid a significant percentage of retirement costs. I see Ginger nodding.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, the geniuses in Concord decided that they wanted to balance their budget, if not reduce it, and they withdrew from making that contribution, which I think may have started at something like 40% initially and then phased out.
Right.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the term downshifting, this is one of the single best examples of how a contribution by the state was downshifted to the towns. And so here we are facing significant increases, and the state has shirked its responsibility in this regard, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
Now, of course, maybe this current legislator will decide they want to take up that responsibility again, but I tend to doubt it.
Thank you, Tom. Where are we at? Brian, do you have something further at this point, on more slides, or?
I do have a few more things to share, if that's
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. I believe it was last year that the CBA was approved, and then it was the year before that the NESPA contract. I could have those backwards, but neither one of those contracts are up for renegotiation this year. In the in the overall teacher salaries, you see on line 2 a 4.2% increase. I just wanted to be clear that's not a broad across the spectrum for all the teachers. If you recall, there were a handful of teachers who were working on steps lower than what their actual experience would indicate. And that was as a result of a few years of receiving no contract from the town. And then the contract that we're currently operating under is trying to correct that, so that we're seeing additional salary line increases based on trying to correct that issue contractually. And then also there's just the more standard increases in the NESPA contract that's on line 52. So those are contractual raises that we, are non-negotiable for this budget cycle. Our Co-Brown tuition increased by 3.99% per pupil. So on line 22, you see a $25,000 increase. I believe our numbers are very stable from the outgoing, what we're projecting for outgoing seniors and incoming freshmen for next year. We'll see, but I believe the increase is primarily due to that tuition increase. And then the special education increased by 4.53%, or close to $50,000, and that's on line 81. And again, those are numbers that come from Co-Brown, and this is a school that we work with for high school. So some of the decreases, I mentioned the school board and the administration worked to reduce the budget in areas where we felt that we could. So some of the areas are some of the teacher supplies. We're just tightening the belt there a little bit, trying to work with a little bit less than ideal situations, just because we needed to cut costs somewhere. We cut back on field trips, sadly, and that's potentially, an area that might not be needed as much because of health conditions. Hopefully things return to normal, but we're just going to have to cut back on field trips a little bit. We had added, I've shared with this committee that this year we've added some custodial positions and a medical assistant position to help out with COVID related needs, but we are not budgeting for those for next year. And I'll talk a little bit about one of the warrant articles when we get there that kind of deals with that situation differently, but we don't feel as the school board that those are positions that we want reflected in our typical budget. And we're hoping that we're operating under more conventional circumstances next year. And then some of the replacement equipment we were able to pre-purchase if it could be used this year. So we could use the CARES 2 funding that came through late in this year to purchase some of our computers, because we know all of our students need to have a functioning device to complete schoolwork at home at least part of the time. So we're purchasing in those areas where we can use stuff now to not include it in next year's budget. So that's why you see a pretty big decrease in some of those areas. And we've also used our capital reserve funds for some of the equipment purchases, such as our intercom system known as the Bogan system. It's due to be replaced. It's starting to have problems with it. We can use it as soon as it is replaced. So we didn't want to put that into the budget under replacement equipment because we're trying to do what we can to lower the budget, but we are using some of our capital reserve funds to deal with that. And just again, all of the copies that were distributed earlier in the week were before the vote. So if you have not written them in, all of the warrants, the operating budget, when you get the default budget and the revenue report, they were all approved by the school board on a 4-0 vote on December 10th. So.
Terrific. Thank you, Brian.
Sure. With that, would you like me to start moving cost center bottom lines, or how would you like
Let's
to?
start doing that. Yes. And if there are lines that you've referenced that changed from the copies that everybody else has, we'll just make note of those and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to write in the newest number and then the total.
Can we do page by page, please?
Well, we need to move a section and then we can go back to the beginning of that section's page. If everybody follows me. So for instance, the 1100 total is on line 48 on page 2. Brian, if you would make the motion with the correct number.
Sure, I'll make a motion to move the 1100 total with the number of $5,929,150.33.
Did everybody get that figure? Betsy?
Hey, I have a question on the Co-Brown line.
Wait a minute, we aren't there yet. We still have to get a second and I want to be sure.
Second.
Thank you, Mike.
Can we repeat the number?
Sure, the number was $5,929,150.33.
And just to be clear, that replaces on my older copy a figure of 6 million and change.
Correct.
Thank you, Ginger.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now discussion. Betsy?
Looking at the enrollment figures, taking off the seniors and adding the 8th grade, I noticed that there's 4 homeschoolers in 8th grade. And my question is, have they sent out letters to all of those asking? There's a form letter. Yes, you're coming. No, you're not. Or I don't know. So that we're budgeting for the ones that are actually coming and not ones that may not show up at all. And there's 4 of them.
Sure. Can I ask Mr. Byrne, I believe that would fall under student services. I know that's something we had discussed. Have we contacted the students 8th graders who are homeschoolers to see about their intentions for Co-Brown?
We have started that process as we typically do. At this point, we have not had all the responses back. So as I spoke with the board, we felt it was appropriate to budget for your homeschoolers, but we did not budget for any move-ins because at this point, they haven't responded to us, even though we've sent out, and it would be very risky to say no at this point. If they say no, we could take them out, but they have not.
So can I respond to that? Historically, we have budgeted for ones that have sent those back. It's a simple form letter, sent it back and said, yes, they're coming, and we've not budgeted for the others if they're homeschooled and have not answered that. So.
Yes, Nate.
I would tend to agree with you, Betsy, but given our current climate where we're at right now, some of our homeschool students are only homeschooled due to COVID. So they are not making their decisions yet. We can't get an actual decision. So we have an increased number of homeschool students based on COVID. And I would be very, it'd be apprehensive to take that and say they didn't send it back, so we're not going to put them in because the number increased due to COVID.
Just in the past, we've had a date that they have to send it back by for budget purposes. I understand the COVID part, but your budget is up quite a bit. And with the current tax bill, I think you're going to have some problems with this budget. And my other question is, I don't really understand why the default is so much higher, because usually it's not. So I don't know if anybody can speak to that at all or not.
I would suggest that we hold off on the difference between the two until we get through the operating budget or the proposed budget, and then we can get those answers and ask questions regarding the default when we get there.
Well, it makes a difference on how voting goes at the end if you know some of the ins and outs of the default piece, why it's higher. It's usually
And
lower.
we don't have the default budget currently to speak to. Brian?
I was just going to say, if it would be helpful for people to screen share the December 10th budget, just, I know you're working off your papers at home and whatnot, but it's a possibility that we could have to all work there, but it's up to the committee.
Yeah, I think there are so few lines in comparison to the total lines in the operating budget that need to have numbers changed in an effort to keep things moving and whatever. I think we can just note those changes, Brian, as you come to them. Give appropriate time for everybody to write in the new figure and then move forward. Nate?
While we're on that Co-Brown line, what I do want to point out is something that the school board had already done to try to lower that cost. So if we look at that line, I just want to make sure that this is pointed out because I know there's some concern in the homeschoolers. So that's line number 22, and it says 187 students. Originally, the school board had brought forth a number of 190 students based on the fear that the numbers needed to be a little higher due to this COVID, due to the circumstances we find ourselves in and the potential of a couple additional students coming in. We looked at that bottom line budget too, Betsy, as you're concerned, being higher. And the school board had voted to remove those 3 additional students that they were having as anticipated and rely on their capital reserve fund if needed. So I just want to let you know that the school board did look at that line very closely.
Can I respond to that, Ginger?
Yes, go ahead, Betsy.
So since we put that capital reserve in effect and put in for equal to roughly 10 students, we have not added extra students in the budget. So those 3 historically have not been added in the past where the capital reserve account is there. And all in, trying to keep the numbers what they are, they're pretty steady, and they have been pretty steady. So
if I could just add a little bit, our total school population is down this year by about 30-35 students, somewhere in that range, and we're anticipating a number of those have have left the school for this year due to the pandemic, due to us opening up as a remote only model. We know for sure that some of those students have transferred to private schools. We anticipate a number of those students coming back as we can resume more normal school day operations. So while we are budgeting for the actual number that we know will be at Co-Brown, we're making some assumptions that there will be an influx next year and that we will be using some of our tuition reserve fund, likely even with this budgeted number. And no one knows for sure what the future is going to bring. We're doing the best that we can here to get an accurate number that I think is fair, but responsible for the situation. So
I would offer a final thought regarding that number. There's still going to be a deliberative session, which will be the beginning of February. I believe it's February 4th. At that time, the school board may have, or should have, more precise information, and that number can always be amended by the body at deliberative as well, or by the school board, should they get additional information. Other questions or comments regarding anything on page 1?
Ginger, if I could just ask at this point, at some time before you start voting, if you could eliminate the cents
Yes.
on the amount, please, and
Yes.
make the totals just the dollar value.
That was my plan. So round it up or round it down, depending on where the final cents fall. Thank you, Linda. Other questions, Betsy?
Hey, just a general comment. With COVID going on, with the reduced revenues, with the issues with everybody's tax bills, I just think there's probably more areas that you could have, for at least 1 year, held off on increasing in a lot of these supply lines. When you look at the history across the line, there's some increases in these. It's just, you know, all part of trying to keep it down. People are having trouble paying their taxes, and I'm just going to make that statement, and it's true pretty much throughout in various places. So.
okay. We did, I mean, the school, as I shared before, the school board did cut a number of the supply lines back in an effort to cut cost. If you would like, I can have Ms. Young discuss some of these lines in the 1100 numbers, how those decisions were made.
I think she's gone at the moment.
No, she's here. I'm just waiting
right
for
there.
the board's pleasure. So.
I'd like to hear from the principal, please.
Oh, absolutely. I was just looking to see her on my screen, and I'm not seeing her on my screen.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I'm sorry, Jocelyn.
That's all right. So yes, we take requests from teachers based on what they think they're going to need. I'll remind the budget committee that last year we were experiencing an enrollment uptick where we ended last year with over 400 students. We've now dropped down significantly, but we're anticipating that enrollment will go back up. So it's a little bit of a crystal ball scenario, knowing how many students we're trying to find supplies for. But we did cut back whenever we could. We did budget based on the current number of students with just a little bit of wiggle room. One thing we found is that costs have gone up, and shipping costs in particular have gone up. So the increase doesn't necessarily reflect a request for more materials. It just may reflect an increased cost for the same type of materials that we've historically purchased.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Other questions regarding lines on page 1? Okay, let's move on to page 2. Any questions on the first half of the page, down to where you get to the 1100 total? Okay, Brian, can you point out the new figure for new furniture and fixtures? It's line 41, just in case people didn't get a chance to write them all in yet.
Sure. So for line 41, new furniture and fixtures, I have a number of $362.09.
Everybody get that? And I believe line 43 was also,
Right, that's replacement furniture and fixtures, and that was also on the slide before. I can pull it back up if that's more helpful, but that was $1,226.34.
Just to understand, Brian, those represent decreases from the previous December 2nd budget.
That's correct. At the December 3rd meeting, we tried to cut as much as we could responsibly, and that's where we came up with.
Betsy?
Brian, can you explain to them, I watched you Thursday night, but the 60,000 that you had unanticipated that you used on some of these lines?
Sure,
help
I should,
reduce them?
absolutely. I should have probably mentioned that on the slide as well, and it just got away from me. But we had unanticipated revenue this year that for a tuition student, sometimes we tuition students out, and sometimes we accept students tuitioned in. We had unanticipated revenue from students tuitioned in of in the neighborhood of $60,000. And we anticipate a very similar figure in this upcoming budget that we're proposing. So because we're trying to get our costs down, we held a public hearing to accept those funds and to use them for some material purchases towards next year. Things that would have, again, replacement equipment and things that we can use this year, but would have regularly been scheduled for next year. So that is one of the steps we try to take to bring this budget down by about $60,000.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Any other questions on the 1100 line? Okay, seeing none, let's take a vote. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve Robinson?
Yes, sorry about that.
No problem.
I was calling.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, vote is 14-0. Okay,
The next cost center is the 1200s. The total is on page 3, line number 100 in the budget. And so I make a motion to move the 1200 cost center for a total of $3,004,698.22.
Brian, can you round that down to even numbers for us?
I'm sorry for, yes.
That's okay. I just thought of it myself.
$3,004,698.
Second.
Okay, and Ted beat you out, Betty.
We'll
Okay,
talk later, Ted.
I'm sorry.
I said, we'll talk later, Ted.
Okay.
Okay, so that section begins halfway down page 2. Are there any questions on any of the lines on page 2? Okay, seeing none, we'll go back to all of page 3. I'm not seeing any hands up or questions about anything on page 3. Going once, going twice. Let's take a vote. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. The vote is 14-0.
Great. The next line is to move is just one item, the 1299 line for Medicaid administration costs. You see it on the bottom of page 3, but the total is right at the top of page 4, line 102. So I make a motion to move the 1299 total of $8,000.
Second.
And thank you, Grace. Any questions about that line? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. That is 14-0.
Great. Our next cost center is the 1410 cost center. That's co-curriculars. And I make a motion to move the 1410 total of $36,202.
Mhm.
Did everyone get that figure?
No.
So this is a revised figure. $36,202 for the total.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Betty.
Ted? Okay. Thank you, Ted.
Ted, you did it again.
Oh, dear.
Any questions on that section? Just want to point out for those who didn't get a chance to write in the new figure on line 107, the retirement certified.
That number is $3,573.40.
Everybody get that? Okay, any discussion on that section? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Vote is 14-0.
Okay, next we have the 1420 cost center. These are athletics. I make a motion to move the 1420 total of $35,998.
$998? It's a
Sorry.
different number than I have,
I'm
Brian.
sorry. No, I read that wrong. $978.
It's the full thing.
Please repeat.
Sorry, $35,978.
Thank you.
And Brian, can you repeat the correct number for line 117?
Sure, 117, the retirement certified number is $3,825.64.
Everybody have it? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Betty. You won.
Yay!
Are there any questions on the 1420 section?
Brian, am I correct in seeing that in the previous section, line 107, retirement certified, went down, whereas in the current section on line 117, the certified retirement went up?
That's what mine is showing as well.
And is there, I thought everywhere that I see a hand going up to answer my question. Nate?
So if you look at your salaries, in that cost section, the salaries went down. So since your salaries went down, your retirement went down. So if you look at your cost center, your adopted for that year was $23,000, for the prior year was $23,750, and your proposed is $17,000. So your retirement went down because your projected salaries went down.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Betsy?
Good point to add to that. It depends if it's an in-school employee that's on retirement or someone from the outside that's not. That affects that as well.
Nate?
We always budget it as in school and then return what's not.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions on the 1420 section? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Go Lakers. Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, for myself, 14-0. Brian?
Great. The next section is the 1430. This is summer school. And I make a motion to move the 1430 total of $3,331.
Second.
And I'll just point out the retirement because that one has changed. That's $462.44. And that's line 124.
Yeah, everybody good?
Need a
Any
second?
questions? Nope, we got a second.
Good.
Any questions on that section?
Can that number be read, the total? Again,
Sure. So the 1430 total is $3,331.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you. Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. Vote is 14-0.
Okay, up next is our truancy officer. This is a 2112 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2112 total for $808.
Second.
Thank you, Betty. Any discussion? Okay, seeing
Must
none.
be less truant kids in school than it was when I was there.
That's because you're not still in school, Mike.
Yes.
Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
The truant. Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Vote is 14-0.
Okay, now we're moving down onto page 5, the 2120 section. This cost center is for guidance, and the total line is found on line 144 of the budget. I make a motion to move the 2120 cost center for a total of $164,702.
Second.
So
Thank you,
moved.
Grace.
And I'm sure there's a retirement certified. There it is, right
Nope.
at the top of
I didn't-
page 5, 136. That number is $23,452.85.
Can you explain why the guidance salaries are up 18%?
There's a few teachers in the guidance department, and this has to do with our CBA. There's some step adjustments happening with some of the employees in this department.
Other questions regarding the guidance department? Tom?
I'm just curious, and possibly the principal want to speak to this as to, and as well as other board members want to chime in as to concern, the COVID experience has had a really, I understand, not firsthand, fortunately, but secondhand at least, had a really impact on the mental health of kids and how well they're doing currently and how well they will be doing, assuming we return to some semblance of normal. So have you thought about that as you looked at this area of the budget?
Yes, the board had actually asked that I review the requests from the guidance counselors to make sure that they were reflective of those increased needs. And I did consult with both of them, and they feel like they have the materials that they need in order to be effective.
Other questions or discussion on the guidance section? Grace, did you have something?
No.
Oh, you just lit up. You lit my day. Thank you.
I think I was shuffling paper.
I'm thinking it's getting close to break time, guys. My coffee cup's getting empty. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, correct? Let's take a vote. Betsy?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Eric, excuse me, sorry, Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes, so the vote is 14-0. And I am currently showing basically 10:30. So I would suggest that we take a 10-minute break.
Good idea.
Does that agree with everybody?
Sure.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Hey, Pam?
Hi.
Hi, I wanted to, I'll call you sometime. I remember the first time I met you, you talked about being connected to Indigenous elders in this area. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, the Abenaki.
Yeah,
Yep,
I'd love
the
to talk to
Abenaki.
you about that because I'm on the board of Bear Paw, and we want to make, we're doing work around diversity and inclusion and acknowledge, land acknowledgement and the original stewards of the land we're all living on. So what's a good time to give you a call at home? Like an evening?
I got people for you.
I'm really happy to hear that. Should I just give you a call or text you or?
Yeah, evening.
I'll call you some evening
Yeah.
next week. How's that sound?
Yeah, I don't have you on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook, but I never go on there.
Sure. I'll find a way to get my number to you.
I
I'm there all the time. It's the only way I see people.
I called you. I have your number. Remember I called you about running for state office and you said you were going to do the select board?
Yeah.
I think I have your number. Let me see.
Yeah, maybe you do. Don't say it out loud, only because we're live.
I definitely won't. I've got you.
Okay, good.
I'll be in touch. Thanks.
Sure, no problem.
Oh yeah, that's right. All of this is being recorded, isn't it? Whatever.
Well, I'm always looking for contact because there's just so little, and I'm still teaching in school 4 days a week with kids, and that's my only contact with people.
There's your people.
Yeah, it's like you're my only mature adults.
Huh. I feel sorry for you if the budget committee is your only mature adult. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this is my party time is to go to meetings lately.
Well, I just found out that a couple that I've known for a long time just got married, and they're having their party on October 1st.
Ah.
So that's my first post-pandemic party that will go into my calendar.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really
That's very
excited for them.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got high hopes for next year, and
me too.
Yeah, I'd love to see the kids have a graduation. I think that would be great, but it might be too soon.
Well,
We
I
could
have
certainly do
potentially
parades.
Had that thing where you could put what state you live in and how old you are and your health and where you would be in your state in line for a vaccine.
Yeah.
I've got like so many people ahead of me.
Oh, what's that website?
Oh, it's the New York Times.
Oh, okay.
It was in about a week ago, but I'm sure you can find it easily. Just just go to the Times and put in like in line for vaccine or something. But I just found out my stepdaughter's getting her vaccine at the end of the month.
Wow.
So
She
she's
works
at
for
first
Maine Medical, and they're getting like just Maine Med is getting like 16,000 doses to do everybody.
That's a big place.
Hey,
double dose.
Ginger.
Yes.
I'm sorry I'm sorry. My screen is really funky. I can see everyone's name and who's muted and stuff, but I can't. So I'm wondering who's hosting. If I'm going to try to leave and then come back into the meeting and hope that it resets everything, but
Susan's on it.
Susan, are you there if I leave and come
There
back?
you are. Well,
Okay.
now I see you. I didn't see you before.
For some reason, I can't see anybody. I'll be right back and hope that this works.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
There's Brian.
Now I can see everybody again. Thank you. I
Oh,
feel much
good.
more comfortable about that. Thank you.
Brian, can you do me a favor and tell me who besides you and Shane are on the school board and who
Sure.
left to create the empty position?
Sure. So Shirley Glennon has resigned, and that leaves, as you said, me and Shane, also Stephanie Arroyo and Jessica Boudreau.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I think we're just waiting for. Oh, nope, he's there. Okay. Looks like we've got everybody back. So we finished off with the 2120 section. So if we're all ready, we can go on to the 2130, Brian.
Great. So that's the nurses section. The total is on line 161 of the budget. I make a motion to move the 2130 total of $105,077.
Who's jumping in for a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Discussion. Questions.
I'll bring up the retirement just because that's been changing all over the place. So line 153, just make sure everybody has the total there, is $12,327.65. I will also note that it shows the medical assistant line in here. The board has chosen not to include in next year's budget, but we do have that position. Currently, we added that for this year due to the pandemic. So
Truly,
Bob.
the
Bob, you're
unsung
muted.
heroes.
Anyway, Brian, you had mentioned something in your early discussion that there were some issues here that you were going to bring up in a warrant article, or did I misunderstand that?
sure. One of the warrant articles, I forget which number it is exactly right now, but we're asking for the town to consider $100,000 for unanticipated funds for COVID relief. I forget exactly how it's worded. Obviously, we'll read it. The intention there was we don't feel that these positions would be in our budget normally. We don't know if we're going to need them next year. We're hoping that we don't, but we don't want to be irresponsible with that either. So we wanted to ask the town if they felt that it were responsible to fund these positions. And we wanted to word it that if we don't use the funds, they'll go back to the town. We don't want to, take money and set it aside just in case. We want to have the resources there if we need additional custodial positions or medical assistant positions like we do this year. We want to have funds to do that if it's unanticipated. But we don't want to include them regularly and have them become like a normal part of the budget. So that's what the intent is there. The wording has gone through legal to try to reach our intent there, that we're covering what we can if we need to, but that we won't be using those funds for other purposes. But it's also got to be kind of like sort of general in a way too. So that's what we have there. But that's why we took the medical assistant position out. That's why we took the additional custodial positions out.
Thanks, Brian. Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you. Grace? Grace, you're muted, hon.
Yes.
Thank you. Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. And Brian, if you, I've got to check, somebody's in my yard. My dogs are going crazy and I'm alone in the house. I shall be right back. Tom, do you want to take over for the next section for me and I'll be right back?
Pretty hot one there, Tom. I'd like to make a motion to move the 2140 total of $1.
I
Byron,
second that.
Ray seconds. Any discussion on this dollar? Seeing none, I will try to remember, at least on my screen, how to call this.
Oh, I'm back, Tom.
Okay,
Sorry. Who was the second on that?
I was.
Grace.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes, ma'am.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. It's 14-0.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
It was.
All right. The 2150, this is our speech and language pathology center. So I'd like to move, this is line 171 of the budget. And I'd like to make a motion to move the 2150 total of $21,884.
Second.
Okay, Grace, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Roll call. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That is 14-0.
Okay, going on to the next page, line 178 of the budget. This is the 2210 cost center. I'd like to move the make a motion to move the 2210 cost center for $30,665.
So, second.
Okay, so everybody has that revised figure?
There is a retirement certified here. That's line 175. That figure is $4,151.45.
Any discussion?
Can I hear the revised figure again? I'm sorry, my dog was barking.
Sure. The 2210 total is $30,665. And
Yeah.
line 175, that's the retirement certified. That line
Yeah,
is $4,151.45.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any further questions or discussion?
Brian,
Yes,
if I just to understand what this money is buying, it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the staff development coordinator and whatever that is, that you're paying stipends to staff to do these additional functions in the school.
Yeah, these are for new teacher mentors. And I'll have Miss Young speak to that a little bit more, some of the more details, if that's okay.
And that the later in that line, professional development is to fund a 2-day professional development workshop, something for teachers to help them improve their writing instruction skills.
Yes, Mr. Chase, you're correct about the professional development, the staff development coordinators and mentors. We have a staff member who serves as the professional development rep for teachers, and then another person who serves as the rep for paraprofessionals. And then we also provide a stipend for mentors of new staff members. So that line encompasses those stipended positions.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
I wish I had had this when I taught there, and I could say yes.
We all do.
The students did.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes, 14-0.
Great. Just a quick comment also before we move on. We were, as the town and the district completed the strategic plan, one of the goals was to attract and retain the best quality staff. And so I think what you're hinting at, Tom, is that mentorships for new teachers is aiming at the goal that comes right out of the strategic plan. So I just wanted to point that out. Our next center is the 2212. This is the Curriculum Director Center. So I'd like to, on line 190 of the budget, I make a motion to move the 2212 cost center total of $112,907.
Second.
Thank you, Grace.
And just because the retirement line here is 185 and the retirement figure here that I have is $16,502.09.
What's your pleasure? Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So it is 14-0.
Okay. The next line I'm looking at is 196 of the budget, the 2213 cost center. I'd like to make a motion to move the 2213 total of $32,000.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Vote is 14-0.
Great. The next total is just over onto the next page, line 212 of the budget. This is the 2220 totals. These are for library. So I make a motion to move the 2220 cost center for a total of $89,848.
Second.
Okay, Betty, you got in there.
And I'm sure there's a retirement in here. So that's on line 205 of the budget. That number is $10,062.06.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the library section?
Library aid up 23%.
We had a change in position, change in staff there.
The new job got 23% more money.
It's based on the NESPA contract. So the person that came into that position came in on a higher step.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes, 14-0.
Okay, continuing down the page, we have the 2225 cost center. This is technology director and related things. So on line 227 of our budget, I make a motion to move the 2225 cost center for a total of $205,899.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. So did everyone get that revised total for that section?
Was it
No.
899 or 889?
99.
Okay.
And the insurance line, let me just find it here.
No, it's tech
Line
replacement.
218. It's retirement non-certified, but I'm not sure if that one changed from what you guys had before, but that line is $10,591.14.
The other line that changed, Brian, was 225.
Okay. Yeah, this was one of the steps the board took to bring down the budget by pre-purchasing some of the computers that could be used this year. So the number that I have there for line 225 is $85.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the technology section? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we'll go ahead with a roll call. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yeah.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 14-0.
Before we move on, Madam Chairman, I'd just like some reassurance from Ms. Young that our technology guru is happy. Because you don't want to try and go out and hire a new one if you can help it.
Mr. Robert has been busier in the last 9 months than he has ever been. But I think happy might be a strong word, but I don't think he's planning to leave us.
Yay!
Exactly.
For what
That's
it's
the
worth,
custodians.
he does smile every time I see him, so.
He's always in a good mood when I talk with him, so.
On drugs.
I said, anytime any of you see Mr. Robert, just thank him for all that he's doing to keep our school online and up and running, because you cannot do education in this day and age unless you have working computers, working whiteboards, etc.
He's my go-to guru, so.
Yeah, and I'll just one last plug for him. We have had other technology directors kind of sit in with him as he facilitates some of our Zoom meetings and the public comment and stuff. So he's not just helping out in Northwood, he's helping out in the district as well. So thank you to Mr. Robert. On line 235, we have the total for the school board section. This is the 2310 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2310 total for $24,246.
Second.
Who was the second?
That was me. Steve-O.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have questions? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes, 14-0.
Okay, moving down a little bit to line 240. I have a total for the 2312 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2312 cost center total of $4,575.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. We have a motion and second. Any questions or discussion?
Who's our current school board secretary?
Alexandra Trudeau.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Vote is 14-0.
Okay, scrolling down to the next page, line 248 of the budget, the 2313 cost centers for school district treasurer. Make a motion to move the 2313 cost center total of $6,687.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. We have a motion and second. Do we have discussion or questions?
Is this Betsy?
It is.
So I assume you'll abstain.
Right. Already planned on, Tom.
She's ahead of you, Tom. Okay, not seeing any other questions or comments. Betsy?
Ding.
Tom?
Yes?
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul? You have to unmute, Paul.
Oh, I did, yes.
Thank you. Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, so count is 13-0-1.
Okay, just a few more lines in the next cost center on 252 in the budget. So this is the 2314 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2314 cost center total of $2,350.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes?
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And yes, count is 14-0. I'm gonna change my paper.
Okay, moving down one more line. So this is the for the audit. I make a motion to move cost center 2317 total of $10,000.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes?
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes, 14-0.
Okay, one more line down. We have our attorney and negotiator 2318 total cost center. I make a motion to move the 2318 cost center total of $20,000.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
Brian, is this a case where there are contract negotiations coming up or lawsuits?
There's no known lawsuits coming up. There will be a negotiation started in this budget cycle.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I'm yes, that's 14-0.
Okay, the next center, this is our contribution for SAU 44. And this was a number that had changed. I'd put it up on the screen, so I just want to make sure that they have the correct number here. So I make a motion to move the cost center 2321 total of $548,223.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 14-0.
Okay, now we're going to jump down. The total is on the next page, line 284 of the budget. This is the 2410 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2410 cost center total $419,118.
Second.
Grace.
Okay, I'll point out the retirement lines. 270 retirement for non-certified. That line is $6,778.49. And retirement for certified, that's $41,902.12.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the section for the principal's office?
Is the
Tom?
is the principal and assistant principal happy? Since continuity and having people last in their positions at Northwood has been a problem in the past, I asked that, you know, with all good humor and
Challenge?
We are also working harder in the last 9 months than we typically do, but it's good work and we're happy to have kids back in the building. And so we're seeing the fruits of our labor. So yes, I would say we are happy.
Thank you. I recall at some point you're speaking in terms of your seeing this position as an opportunity to grow, stretch, and self-actualize. That's my term, not yours. So I'm happy to see that you have an opportunity to grow, stretch, and be the best you can be. And thank you so much for your service to the town.
It's been a pleasure.
Most days.
What it's worth, I can say that the interim superintendent is very happy with both the principal and the assistant principal.
Oh. Nice.
Thank you.
And someday we'll be able to have a party again.
Right.
And we can celebrate it all. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the principal section? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
You, Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes, 14-0.
Okay, the next line I'm looking at is 313 in the budget. This is a facilities cost center. So I make a motion to move cost center 2620 for a total of $513,351.
Second.
Okay, let me find the retirement lines here. So
Say that
anybody else
total.
yell out the number. Oh, wait. So, okay, line 295, that's retirement for non-certified. So that's at $20,472.19.
And Brian, we have an adjustment.
Can I have that?
on line 302.
Okay. So line 302, repairs and maintenance for the building. We have a downward adjustment, I believe. So that's $26,060. I believe that's have Ms. Young correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the adjustment, one of the ones we were using from our capital reserve fund for some of the equipment in the building that we can pre-purchase earlier. So.
You are correct.
Did everybody get those revised figures?
Can I have the bottom line number again, please?
Sure. 2620 total of $513,351.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thumbs up.
Are there any questions or comments regarding section 2620? I'm seeing none. So Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am yes, 14-0.
Okay, I'm moving down to line 318 in the budget. This is a 2630 cost total for grounds and maintenance. Make a motion to move the 2630 cost total of $15,514.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. And we have a change on the 316 line, Brian, I think.
Sorry about that. So that the 316 line total is $916.50.
Everybody get that, those numbers? Okay, are there any questions or discussion on grounds maintenance? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Oops, I'm
You need Brian. for-
Brian, I'm sorry, I skipped over you.
I'm a yes as well.
I kind of figured you would be. Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 14-0. Okay,
Okay, 2640 is for the oil tank maintenance. I make a motion to move the 2640 total of $3,750.
Second.
we have a motion and second. Any discussion?
Oh, I'm a little confused. So is this actually maintenance on the oil tank or is it filling the oil tank? If it's maintenance, why so much each year to maintain it?
It is maintenance and I believe the inspections unless there's somewhere else in there. But we have multiple oil tanks that I guess require a fair amount of maintenance. I'm sorry, I don't know the specifics on that.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we have 14-0.
Great. The bottom of the page, line 325, for the 2660 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2660 cost center for a line of $7,080.
Second.
Okay, so we have motion and second. Any discussion on those lines? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. Vote is 14-0. We are on our last page, folks.
Woohoo. We're looking at line 328, the 2690 cost center. I make a motion to move the 2690 cost center total of $2,900.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes, 14-0.
Great. Now I'm looking at the transportation cost center. The bottom line there is on 333 of our budget. Make a motion to approve cost center 2721 for a total of $376,355.
Mike Moore, second.
Thank you, Mike. And we can't let Grace have all the fun.
I know. I was going to be quiet soon.
Are there any questions or comments regarding section 2721? Betsy?
I want to make a comment. I know the board talked the other night about looking outside for others. When we did that last time, we didn't come up with anything. And this contractor is quite a bit considerably less than the last one. And it's very hard to find drivers to begin with. So I don't think you're going to gain anything by it.
Okay, thank you for the comment.
Other questions or, questions or comments regarding the transportation line? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and yes, 14-0.
Okay, the next line is 338 in the budget. I make a motion to move the 27-22 cost center total of $209,749.
Second,
Thank you, Steve.
that was me.
Yeah, you lit up on my screen.
I lit up.
He's such
Any
a shining example.
What was that, Betty?
He's such a shining example.
Isn't he, though?
It's my head. That's why.
Any questions or discussion regarding the 27-22 transportation section? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dirty dog.
It's just a slow drag from your end of town, girl. That's all. Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes. 14-0. Final count.
Okay, the athletic transportation line, I make a motion to move cost center 27-24 for a total of $6,400.
I'll second. Mike Jobin.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul, Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes. 14-0.
Okay, next line is 342 in the budget. I make a motion to move cost center 27-25 for a total of $900.
I'll second. Mike Jobin.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll just comment, this is related to field trips. As we cut back on our field trip funding, we're cutting back on our field trip transportation also, so.
Any other questions or comments on that line? Okay, seeing none. Betsy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike Moore,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul, you're muted, Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
I tried to be quicker.
Mike Jobin,
Yes.
and I am a yes. 14-0.
Okay, our next line, 345 in the budget. This is for homeless transportation. I make a motion to move the 27-26 cost center total of $12,500.
Second.
Thank you, Grace. Any questions or discussion?
Is this a just in case, or do we actually have homeless kids? in the
Mr.
schools?
Byrne, I think this is a projected need, but I'll just have you speak to it.
So at this point, you do have students experiencing homelessness in the Northwood School District system. Right now, we don't have a need for transportation for many of those students. However, you do need to project some costs in case their situation changes. So right now, this is a projected cost to provide you with some safety net if we need to provide transportation for those students who are experiencing homelessness.
Thank you, Nate. Other questions or comments regarding this section? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul? Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. 14-0.
Okay, one more. We have our special education bus monitors. I make a motion to move cost center 2730 for a total of $6,782.
Second.
second. Sorry, Grace.
No, you can have it.
Wait, well, who is it going to be if not Grace?
I'll give it to Grace.
And she's giving it back to you.
Second.
Okay.
You can have the next one.
Thank you.
Can I have one?
Sure. Any questions or comments? Betty, do you have your hand up?
Nope.
Okay. Any questions or comments on section 2730? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is 14-0.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the operational budget expenditures. We want to go probably over food service as well.
Yeah, I just want to check one thing here. Yes, we should go over the food service expenditure before we get to the warrant article. Yep.
Okay, so
I
I'm
wanna-
looking at line.
Before we
3.
go on, would it be possible to just have that final number for item 351?
Oh, good idea. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, the number that I have for line 351, and I guess this may have adjusted slightly based on rounding, but the number that I have is 11,971,630.41.
It's a little bit different than what I have. Is it possible that Nate or somebody could get that number just so we get that?
I think if you've been tallying them, Bob, while we've been rounding them, is it much of a difference between what you have?
It's not that much. It's, a few hundred, but just so that we
Oh, a
get.
few hundred. Oh.
Glenn, are you with us? Could you double check that bottom line there. So not the bottom line, this is line 351, general operation expenditure total. It looks like you're unmuted and you're talking, but I don't hear you.
Still don't hear you.
No, still can't hear you, Glenn. Okay. No, still can't hear you.
So if I may, I do have a
Yes,
copy of the final approved budget from 12/9 that the school board voted on. I can share it and show on the screen and show that number. And the number that is there
Nathan, can you hear
is,
me now?
okay, never mind. There you go, Mr. Waring.
Yep, now we hear you, Glenn.
Okay, Glenn, there's a question on line 351, general operation expenditure total. The number that I have here is $11,971,630.41. And are you able to confirm that or?
There we are. Yep.
Okay.
Glenn, you may need to switch to phone audio, switch out of the computer audio and dial in on the phone number for us to be able to hear you.
Bob, you had indicated that your number was slightly different.
Yeah, I'm going to go back over it during the lunch break and just check. I think probably what's happened is as we've gone through and rounded the numbers, it's obviously not going to reflect what's on Glenn's sheet right now.
Right.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be off by, if you said a few hundred, that sounds like more than.
That's why I'm going to go back and check during lunch rather than to tie us up now.
Okay.
Okay. So then do you want to talk about food service?
Yeah, let's go with the food service, Brian.
Okay. So line 360 of our budget on the 04 total, I make a motion to move the 04 cost center food service expenditure total of $144,630.
Pam, you want this one?
Second.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Is there any discussion on the food services section? Betty?
Is the school department providing any meals for the kids at this time?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Henson.
Go ahead, Monica.
Yes. Currently, we've been providing universal free breakfast and free lunch as part of the federal initiative. The Department of Agriculture and National School Lunch Program has funded that.
Okay, so that's over and above what the end 68 hours of hunger is doing.
Yeah. The End 68 Hours of Hunger, as I'm sure you know, is a local, well, there's a local chapter, I guess, of a charity that facilitates that. And, you know, occasionally my children have helped out with that. It's a really great program. But what the school lunch program is doing is just providing a free breakfast or a free lunch to any student who signs up that would like one. So.
Okay.
Can you say how those are delivered if you're doing a lot of remote learning?
There's a pickup. There is no delivery service from the food service. But as you see the front of the school, there's the barriers that were put in place because of the buses. Right around that door, that's where the kitchen is. There's a table that's set up out there, and students, if they're not in school that day, they're learning remotely and they've signed up for breakfast or lunch, they'll get a bagged lunch. It will be provided for them. They pick it up through that door and that table right there.
Other questions or comments regarding the food service? Okay, seeing none. Betsy? Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We have 14-0. So that brings us down to an expenditure grand total. Then there are some adjustments and then the final operating costs. What I would like to suggest, seeing as how it is 11:45, if you pull out your warrant, we hold off on the operating budget article until Bob and others can reconfirm what they're coming up with for totals. And we address the remaining 2 warrant articles. Then we can break for lunch. After lunch, we can come back with the operating budget warrant article. Does that make sense? Just trying to utilize our time as best as possible here.
Works for me.
I was gonna say, does anyone disagree with that? Cool. Then in that case, we shall move to Article number 3.
Great. I make a motion to approve Article number 3, which reads, shall the Northwood School District vote to establish a contingency fund for the upcoming fiscal year under the provisions of RSA 198:4-B for unanticipated expenses that may arise, including but not limited to the district's COVID-related expenses, and raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for this purpose. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the fiscal year will lapse to the general fund, and the board will report in the next annual report on the uses made of the fund. The school board recommends this appropriation by a 4-0 vote, and we don't have the budget committee or the tax impact if this is approved at this time.
I will jump in just because I know Gwen's having a
Hang on
hard
one
time with.
sec, Nate. Can you hold on one second? We have a motion. I have to get a second so that we can start discussion.
Second.
Thanks, Betty.
My guess is Nate actually has the tax impact, but I could be wrong.
Is that true?
I do.
Cool. Okay.
Sorry about that. I was trying to
No,
help
no,
before
that's
the
fine.
motion went through. The tax impact is 15 cents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Discussion, Betsy.
Make a suggestion or ask a question. So is there any thought to taking this from unexpended fund balance on June 30th? So it's not a tax impact, sort of?
Let me see how I guess this is for, yeah, I'm going to defer to Nate because this gets kind of technical, if that's okay with you.
So Mr. Waring and I worked on this together. This is not out of unexpected. This is asking to raise and appropriate an additional $100,000 for this contingency fund. So there is a tax impact if you wind up spending it because we're asking you to raise and appropriate. I believe if you look at there's a phone number dial in. I think that is Mr. Waring. If you want to unmute it, I believe he tried to dial in. He might be able to speak to this even more clearly. If you want to just verify that the last two digits of 19 is Mr. Waring. But I had spoken with him on this, and we went back and forth on this, and it was because we are asking. This isn't asking for you to take your unexpended fund balance. It's to set up a fund. So this is to raise and appropriate.
And I think Betsy's question was, why raise and appropriate instead of taking it from unexpended fund balance?
I think this was based on legal advice, as well as the fact that because you had some additional set positions put into your budget outside of what was budgeted for originally, it might be hard, or there might be a chance that there's not enough funds there to cover the cost of that. Plus, what we wanted to do is make sure that at this point we could offset the next year's taxes with the remaining fund balance. But again, I believe Mr. Waring is on. If you want to ask him, he can explain it. But I do believe it was set up this way instead due to legal advice. And Dr. Henson could also speak to that as she spoke with the lawyers.
Yes, I reviewed this with the school board attorney and to confirm that this was the most advantageous way to proceed.
Betsy, another comment or question?
What is the opinion of DRA as well?
I'll have to yield to Mr. Waring on that.
Glenn, I see.
Unmute
Your phone, Glenn. Got you hooked up by phone?
Can't hear you.
That might not be his phone number.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is. Okay.
Mr. Waring, press *7 on your phone. There you go.
I think you have to speak into your phone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, we hear you.
No. So I did reach out to DRA about reviewing the warrant articles in advance, and they directed me to kind of hold off until they're more formalized, and then they get submitted into DRA's web portal. So they streamline their process. So DRA has not reviewed these as of yet.
Okay. Betsy, further comment?
I just want to bring up that with a tax impact, if people vote no, no means no. But if it comes from unexpended fund balance, they're more apt to vote yes for it. So I'm just throwing these out there.
Thanks.
That is a point.
Yeah, we did discuss the no means no for sure. It's partially why it's worded a little bit generally, but I mean, the intent really is, does the town want us to set aside money in case there's ongoing unusual conditions? And if the town feels that we don't need to take that risk, then and if we find ourselves in that situation, we'll point back to this warrant, we'll point back to, doing what we can, but it may mean, worst case scenario, that we're not able to fund an additional custodial position, or we're not able to do some kind of hybrid learning as we're doing now. And I don't want to say that's definitely what's going on, but that's a decision that, we can't tell the future is going to bring. We want to present it to the town to consider it, and we'll move forward as they see fit. So.
Before I call on Betsy again, does anyone else have any comments or questions?
I'm just curious how you added the custodian and all the unknown things you ran into this year. You didn't have a warrant article to fall back on?
Yeah, we're drawing from our surplus. We're doing some cuts in other areas. We do have some CARES funding, not enough to cover all of those positions, but it's difficult. We don't want to rely on that in this similar situation next year. So
I also assume
Betsy.
that if you fund something out of the unexpended fund balance and there is no unexpended funds, then you can't do what you want to do.
correct.
And if I
Yeah.
understand
I mean,
correctly, you've been pretty careful not to spend or to try and spend as little as you can and still be responsible.
correct. I mean, the unexpended fund balance for this year is at 2.5% of the operating budget, I believe. So that's I don't remember the exact total offhand, but it's probably around 270 or $280,000. So if we have to use those funds for these positions, that's there. But as we spend that, that would go away. One of the other warrant articles is to increase the expended fund balance amount percentage wise. And that's come to us through the legislature, but that wouldn't go into effect immediately. That would take time, moving forwards in future budget cycles. So
Betsy?
They state contingency fund. What are they talking about? Capital reserve fund or just holding it in their books, or what are we doing there?
So this went through legal and that was their language. So I'm going to defer to either Dr. Henson or Nate Byrne, who's worked on this with the legal team.
Go ahead, Nate. I'll pitch in if needed.
Well, at the moment, you're up and running, so if you could give us some information, Monica, that'd be appreciated.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right one, Brian. I was taking a look at Attorney Graham's letter while you were talking.
Okay, so we're on Article 3, and the question is, why is it being set up as a contingency fund?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to yield on that one to Glenn.
Okay,
Glenn, can you give us some insight on that?
Unfortunately, I was not involved with any of the language of this warrant article, so I unfortunately cannot provide any additional information.
Nate, that'll have to be you.
Okay, so I'm pulling up the, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the email. I'm not gonna share the complete email, but this was an email that was shared to us from Dr. Henson, from the lawyer, and his advice on what he had said was that to avoid the prohibition on expenditures for the purposes in a separate warrant article, which are defeated or amended to zero, I suggest that the board consider a straight contingency warrant article under RSA 198-4B, which provides, and this is why it says contingency, a school district annually by an article separate from the budget and all other articles in the warrant or the governing body of the city upon recommendation of the school board when the operation of the school is by a department or a city may establish a contingency fund to meet the cost of unanticipated expenses that may arise during the year. The detailed report of all expenditures from the contingency fund shall be made annually by the school board and published with their report. So the reason of the contingency fund is this is something that we would not be able to foresee. And such as we would set that contingency up and it would be like a running total. They would have the access to the funds immediately. They would not have to go through a trust the way I read it. Again, I'm not the lawyer. I did not have the conversations with the lawyer, but looking at the 198 that they reference, the contingency fund would be a going thing, and whatever isn't has to go back to surplus and return to the town immediately the following year. You don't get to keep it like you do a trust.
Betsy?
strongly suggest that you get the blessing of DRA on this one so that it doesn't backfire on you later, in addition to what you have for the legal.
I believe what we would do is moving forward with this committee's blessing. Once this goes to DRA, we would find out if this is a final and approved article before we bring it to the voters to vote on. But what we're doing is trying to provide it to you. Typically, we don't have to provide all the warrant articles for approval right away. We're trying to fast track the process per Ginger's request. So what I wanted to do is, or what we're trying to do is bring this to you so that you can vote on it. Obviously, if the DRA doesn't give it the blessing, we would remove this article. We would cross out and say it's not appropriate.
Right. Betsy?
So can we have that ruling before the public hearing, the second week in January?
Probably not.
Why not?
Time-wise. I would encourage, this is my thought, I would encourage the school board, SAU, whichever level, to get what information you can. But as Nate said, we can certainly during the public hearing, bring up these same comments that, you know, DRA is going to have the final approval on this. They haven't given it already. And it's possible that you might not see this on the warrant if they determine that it's not acceptable or what have you. I don't want to restrict the school board or the SAU staff to a date and time specific to have an answer or else. It'd be helpful, but I think it can be addressed that way at public hearing, and as well as I'm sure that there'll be an answer by deliberative, which will be in February. Betsy, another comment?
What, 5 weeks out to the public hearing, I would strongly think that DRA could give you a ruling in that time. And all I'm trying to do is to save you from losing this in the long run because you haven't run it through them and got the blessing of it. So I'll just throw that out there.
I appreciate that, that effort, Betsy. So thank you.
Are there other questions or discussion regarding Article 3? Okay, seeing none. Betsy?
Was this voted on by the school board already?
Yes.
It was. It was approved 4-0.
4-0, okay. Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul? Paul, I can barely hear you if you're speaking.
No.
Thank you. Ed?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is 14-0. And at this point, I am showing it is 12 o'clock. Betty needs a break. I would suggest that we take our lunch break. Dude, God bless. And be back at 12:30.
Okay.
We'll pick up with Article number 4, and by that time, we should have our final figures confirmed for the operating budget. Enjoy
Okay.
lunch, everybody.
Thank you.
Is it a free lunch from the school?